Today, I have with me Cassie, Osgood, and Ashley Wilson. And I would love for us to just start off by each of you telling me a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Well, as already shared, my name is Ashley. I've lived in the area probably coming up on probably like 6 years now. I have three littles, 5, 4, and 2. So it's busy. And my husband, he's an accountant, and we've been married. It'll be 10 years in June. So all good things. We just moved. I was just talking to Carolyn about that, and Cassie knows too. So I was sharing like how we're, unpacking and all the stuff. And so that within itself that's the adventure. If you want to know my hobbies and everything right now, that's what I'm trying to do right now. So
For sure.
yeah.
Now, Ashley, you said you just moved to this area. Where did you live before?
So I live in the Lancaster area.
Okay. And did you grow up in that area?
No, I'm originally from Staten Island. So
Oh, okay.
Staten Island, New York. And so my mom, after a time, really wanted to make sure that, I had good education and everything, and just a really good living environment. And so after living in Staten Island for a while, her and my stepfather, we moved to the Pocono area. So I've been like all over Pennsylvania. So
yeah, you sure have.
For a little bit, went to Kutztown University, so I was in that part of Pennsylvania, worked in Hershey, Pennsylvania. So I've been all over.
That's fantastic. You probably know the state better than I do. And Cassie.
Well, I am a stay-at-home mom. I homeschool. I have 3 kids, and I have been in the Wellsboro area my entire life. And my husband, he has also been in the area his entire life. And I'll go into a little more detail because it'll come up later. But my husband has, since he was a teenager, worked beside his dad in the plumbing and heating industry. And so in that, he has the unique advantage of just knowing a lot of people from Tioga County. And I do too. We have big families, and it's just given us a unique perspective on Tioga County and the people in it. So we have always felt really blessed to have those connections and relationships with our community, and just a lot of people.
That's great. I know I always joke that I meet new people and then find out that they're related to you because you're related to like everybody.
Yes.
Oh, goodness. Yeah. So the reason I have you ladies here with us this morning is to talk about a local organization that's fairly new. I think I know you've been working on it for a while, but I think it's actually fairly new, called Rewritten. And so can you just tell us about Rewritten? What are the goals of Rewritten?
Yeah, so we want to help survivors of human trafficking, but that's just so large, right? So broad. How do we help how do we help survivors or victims of human trafficking? And when you hear about human trafficking, you realize how much it is on a large scale. People's minds usually go to, oh man, it's an international thing. Where for me, what brought me into even being an advocate for human trafficking awareness issues or anything like that was realizing, actually, no, this is going on right here. And learning more about rural America, rural Pennsylvania, and realizing the things that make those type of areas a target, that is more of what why Rewritten is being birthed here. There's so many resources that sometimes go missing when you're in a rural area, and so then it allows for victims to go underneath the radar, and you may not even know that it's happening. And so we want to be a resource to those here within our community, and we also want to bring the end to it, which you'll hear us talk about different layers of, pornography and what actually causes human trafficking issues, not just pulling them out of slavery, but how do we stop it? How do we make a safe community in general? So that's just a lot of what we want to focus on.
Sure. Wow. Cassie, do you want to add anything, or what, Ashley, you already shared kind of what got you into this, or what led to this. Cassie, how did you, sorry, I'm going to go back to Ashley. Ashley, what led to you starting this? Like what made you decide to start this organization, and what led up to that?
I feel like it's been a long journey. So I will try to minimize what actually got me here. But I feel like, it's one of those things that when you go back into different parts of your life, you realize, wow, like now that I know about human trafficking, what I was seeing and experiencing, and even in my jobs and what I was learning and different things would prepare me for this time. But when I was living in Lancaster, I was a pregnancy resource center director. And I had 2 locations. One we had at a college campus, and one we had at a local homeless shelter was our office. And so during that time, we had to have a training to learn what would be the signs in case anybody walked into our center and they seemed to be a victim of human trafficking. And so I was one of, I think we had like 3 or 4 other directors. And while we're in this training, my mind is just being blown. I'm like, what? Like, what is going on out there? And there was just something that rose inside of me that just was like, man, I need to be an advocate for this. So long story short, I prayed, saw what God wanted me to do, and got connected with another training that was going on that was sharing about human trafficking issues, got connected with the director there. They were having a job opening, became an executive director over a safe home. And through all of those different steps, it brought me here to the Tioga County area. And we didn't know, if we would stay. We didn't know, what God wanted to do. But as we prayed, we really feel like God was planting us here in Wellsboro, and that it was for me to actually start an organization. And then from there, I brought in a training from Becky McDonald from War International to train the community about human trafficking issues. And all of those different things led to me really feeling like I was supposed to birth Rewritten. And so that's how it came about. And I just stepped out on faith and just started moving towards doing that.
How long has it been in process?
So we started having the actual vision in like April 2019. I had just had my daughter too. So Cassie knows our meetings. I was like, are you okay if I just nurse here? You got to do the mom and advocate thing, right? So I was getting the vision and seeing where God wanted me to link up with different people. And so that started around that time, started doing interest meetings, started to see, the interest of the community and different things like that. And probably towards the end of the year, we then started to proceed to actually making Rewritten a reality. And this past November, 2020, I have to remember where we are right now in our timeline. November 2020, we became state approved. And so right now we have to finish out the 1023 paperwork. There's a lot of paperwork and a lot of behind the scenes things that people don't always know goes into building a nonprofit. Sure. And so we're doing a lot of foundation work to make sure that we can be a strong organization within the culture of Rewritten, so we can have healthy staff and healthy people connected that can continue to broaden the vision and make sure that it lasts, along with the day-to-day stuff. You have to do the paperwork and all of that. So right now we're in the 1023 process. So that should take us into, sometimes you got to wait 6 months until you hear back from the state to get your final okay. So before this year is out, we should hear about Rewritten officially being a 501c3 nonprofit.
Wonderful. So Cassie, how did you get linked up with Ashley and get involved?
Well, I think my story starts out kind of similar to hers in the sense that it was just a lot of these little things God was showing me that ultimately led up to Rewritten. It certainly was never anything that I thought I would be involved in. It was never anything that like I even knew was an issue or a need in our area. I think I was born with a heart for the underdog. So that really, it all stems from there, basically. I was involved in prison ministry for a few years, which really opened my eyes to bigger issues in our county, in our area that you just don't realize that without talking to the people and the women that I talked to, that I would ever realize was an issue, let alone something that really needed addressed. And then Ashley had, was working on this, and this was on her heart, and she had the civilian first responder training where Rebecca McDonald from More International came to Tioga County. She brought Homeland Security with her. She brought some, really influential people. And to be able to sit down with Rebecca and talk and to hear all the things that they had to say and to realize how big of an issue this really is. It was just one of those moments where once I saw it, I could never unsee it. And
Sure.
if I can't unsee it, then I have to try my best to do something about it. I think in that moment, it was the night before. And I lived pretty much next door to where we were having it. And so I volunteered to come help set up chairs and things. And Rebecca sat us down and she said, what did she? She had us start, she had pulled up a map and done a 2-hour radius on this map. And on that, she had plugged something into the computer and had over like 200 strip clubs and brothels and within a 2-hour drive of little, Tioga County. And she said, this is where it's happening. These are the people, and these are the areas and these are the towns that are being affected. And it was just mind blowing. Like a 2-hour drive, we do that to go to the mall, and here we don't realize it, but we're passing all of these places and it's real. And, our daughters are in the car with us driving by these places. And it just really hit home how much of a significant just issue that it is. And so if these places are here, then these women are here.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't not think about that and think about what my place was and trying to create some kind of solution to that problem.
Wow.
Yeah, so good. Yes.
So I know you, Ashley, you kind of already addressed this a little bit, but where are you in the process of starting up? Like you've had a training, and what do you, as you look towards the future, do you have a timeline or what's your expectation for, are you actively doing anything? I mean, I know you're doing things, but I mean, are you actively working with victims at this point? Or is that yet to come?
So we're in a really unique situation where, like, although we aren't fully formed yet, we are looked at sometimes as certain resources. So we have really good mentoring relationships with Rebecca McDonald that Cassie was talking about, and Rebecca Bender. And so Becky McDonald, she works with also those that may be at risk. So if there's someone at risk that may be in our area, us, three collectively can be talking and working through things to see a solution. So what that does for me is just help me to see more of what's going on in the area, having someone to have experience that has been in this for over 20 years, and she's seen the gamut. I mean, she has stuff here US wise, and then she has ties internationally. So for her to have been brought into my life is truly a blessing and only a divine intervention. So in those regards, if someone contacts us for at-risk situation or something that could possibly be trafficking, we can have those type of relationships to work through to see how to best fit them until we do have our safe home open. And so with that, we like to give trainings and whatnot when we can online. Obviously, COVID put a little rift in what we could do in person during that time. But before that, when we were hosting our interest meetings, we would kind of share what human trafficking was, what we plan to do, and give more education that way. Over our Facebook page, we've been sharing more of, a lot of people are more online and people don't realize the connection between pornography and human trafficking issues. And so we want to share a lot of that awareness, and we have done pornography awareness training or like awareness on there concerning the issue. And if you are struggling, not a shame thing per se, but to know where to get help from so you don't end up down a lane you didn't expect. It's the same a lot of times for the pimp that it is the victim, obviously in different ways, but the victim never was dreaming to be a slave or a prostitute. And the pimp, some people don't realize that sometimes people grow into that. Like, not every person is like just out there to do it. Some people that's what they know as they're growing up in their family line of, well, this is what we do as women or babies or children, and this is what we're doing. So how do we get to the solution that we stop the pimps from doing what they're doing, as well as getting the victim saved and healed from trauma? And so in my mind, I'm thinking of both of those ways. And so our timeline to eventually open a safe home would look more towards 2023. We're looking to eventually buy land and build a safe home on there that would give them like an apartment style format for about 4 to 5 women. When you have that much trauma, you can't have a large house with a lot of people in there. And so it'll be for women 18 and up. And if they have children, because what we're also learning is a lot of times, sometimes victims won't come to a safe home if they know that they're going to lose their children. And so we're trying to look for best practices in doing that, so they can also have their children with them during that time if they do have children. And it'll be a year-long program. And Cassie can share like some of the programmatic things that we've been looking at to do with them while they're within the safe home. But we're hoping to be that solution of helping them get back on their feet and see who they truly are, and who God designed them to be. They had dreams too, so we want to help them to see their dreams can still be reality despite the trauma that they've been through.
Yeah. Cassie, do you want to share what Ashley was just saying, some of the programs that you'll have the residents go through?
Yeah, so I like Ashley said, we want to have like apartment style housing for them so that they feel they're safe, a sense of security while they're there, as well as having their own space and being able to parent their children while being there with them also as a support and a resource for them. We'd like to offer, classes. A lot of women, may need help obtaining a GED or just learning how to file taxes, or very basic things, as well as to be able to have therapy on site so that they can receive the help that they need without having to go out into the community and be exposed in vulnerable ways. We want to be able to teach them how to take care of themselves in ways, the way they eat and the way they what they do for recreation. We would love to be able to have gardens and equine therapy and just a lot of different things that could benefit, mental health as well as physical health while they're there. There's tons of ideas.
Yeah.
Once you start going, it's hard to like stop that thought process of, oh, this would be so cool and this would be neat, and I read about this and this is helping people here. But really, we just want mind, body, and soul to be able to be taken care of, and for them to feel safe, which is the number one thing.
Sure. Wow. So why is this area such a key area for this type of organization?
Yeah, I definitely think that both Cassie and I can shed light on that. But, when you come up, what's that long highway 15, you see all the different adult, activity or shops or whatever that can be going on. We're not that far from New York. And so you have a lot of traffic that's going in and out of Tioga County. If you want to even call this like a tourist town per se, when we used to have Dickens and all that type of stuff. And you may often hear when people talk about, human trafficking and those buying sex, there are things sometimes people will do when they are not at home that they would do when they are away from home. So you have that mixture in there. But then you also have those that, the issues that are actually present here. We know that there's a large drug issue here. We know that there's a lot of child abuse, a lot of domestic violence. And so all of those things can be connected, and poverty issues, all those things can be connected to human trafficking occurrences. I think one of the things that, as far as written, we would like to help with is the language and the protocols to actually know what is actually going on within our area that is actually human trafficking and what is actually child abuse, because certain things that actually could be human trafficking going on can be swept under the rug as a child abuse issue. And so you have all these different factors. We live in rural areas. It's easy to, do stuff in the quiet. Nobody's paying attention to you. There has to be a transaction when there's human trafficking stuff going on. So, because of poverty or because of drugs, the transaction could be, someone selling their child to get money then for rent or for drugs. That's what it looks more like in rural areas rather than what people may expect sometimes. Oh, everybody's chained to a bed and all that type of stuff. And as cases come, we don't know if we'll see some of that stuff. But and learning more about rural issues, that seems to be more of how it's played out when investigations are done, that you see more of that like family type of trafficking to get drugs or to get food or to pay for rent or something like that.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Can you share, just for anyone who's listening, like what are some things to look for just for the average citizen who might be out and about? Is there anything that would, be a red flag?
I think the more that we learn more about this area, and as we start to work with other providers, we'll get to learn more of the pattern. And so I would tell people to hold tight with us as far as when we start to roll out protocols, what will actually be for this area. Mm-hmm. But one of the things I will say is, if you see a lot of in and out activity concerning, maybe certain neighbors or certain things, you don't always have to pinpoint it yourself to know, oh, that's a human trafficking situation. So, no, call the hotline, which I'll give that number as well.
Great.
You can call the National Human Trafficking Hotline, or you can text them and just share what you're seeing that you may think is could it be a human trafficking issue? You don't know. Or if you yourself have contact with someone and you're noticing they're all of a sudden getting a lot of money, they're all of a sudden getting brand new stuff, or, the daughter maybe is starting to have a new boyfriend. What's going on online? Are you seeing certain messages that seem weird? Being mindful of all of those different things could, be a trigger for you to say, hey, maybe this might be more than just an average boyfriend. Are they saying, if you do this, I'll pay you, and asking them to go to a certain location? Those are different things to be mindful of. And so I do want to, if it's okay, just to give this number real quick.
Sure. Yeah, please do. I'm going to write it down.
So it's 1-888-373-7888. Or you can text Be Free to 233-733.
33733. Text Be Free. BEFREE.
Yes.
Free. Okay.
Yeah.
233-733. Okay.
So you can, when I've had to do this before, I was out of town one time and actually saw some activity and needed to just check in what's going on or whatever. They are very proficient as far as like being able to text you right back. So you would just go on your phone, put in 233-733, and then, they talk back with you. Hey, why do you think this is a human trafficking issue? They'll ask you what you're seeing. So one of the things that would be good is just to start documenting what you're seeing. So then you have something to relay to those that are on the other side of the hotline.
Okay. Now, you just mentioned something that as a parent makes me kind of think, okay, so just with regards to, parents and their own children, you mentioned kind of being aware of like new boyfriend or suddenly having a whole bunch of new stuff. Is there anything else as a parent that we should be looking for with our kids?
I think.
Yeah. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Cassie.
I think the very basic things we can do is make ourselves aware of what we're giving our kids access to.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I think it's so important. And I'll say what we do personally, because I'm not out to tell anybody else what to do, but nothing with a camera in a bedroom or a bathroom. That's Kindles, phones. I've heard people say, oh, but I have it turned off. It really doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Having any kind of access like that to your children, or giving your child a device is giving someone access to them, period. No question about it. So we just have rules in place, like no Kindles in bedrooms, no Kindles in bathrooms. And then just being aware of what they're doing while they're on it. Being aware of what games they're playing. If a game has a chat feature where they can talk to strangers, for us, then it's an automatic no. Regardless of whatever that feature, whatever the game is, they may have safeguards in place, but you are your child's biggest safeguard, and saying no is the best way to make sure nothing happens. There are people out there that can obviously override these things, and that's what they've made it their life's mission to do, and it's just not worth it to me to put my kids in that position to find out.
Yeah. Were you going to add anything to that, Ashley?
Yeah, I think honest conversations, like my kids are really small, right? But we're talking about body parts, and just even simply being able to share like what the actual body part is, given the actual name to it. So having open conversations with your kids about sexuality, honestly, and what happens if you see a porn image. What is pornography? Because a lot of times that's another way that kids and people can be pulled into being vulnerable to someone who could be a trafficker or whatnot. A human trafficking, but pimps or they look for vulnerabilities. So where do you see within your child that there could be a vulnerability? Are they are they easy? Do they really want a lot of compliments or different things like that? I feel like as a parent, the best thing you can do is build up your child's self-esteem, being able to have open conversations with them about their friends and different things like that. So if they are, being lured into something, that you're going to be the first one that they talk to. You want them to be able to talk to you about what's going on. The same thing is if they start seeing certain images on their phone or whatever. When we had the CFR training, Rebecca talked about there being certain apps on their phone that, say, if you had a calculator on there, that actually took them into something else. It was like another game or something where they can talk to people that they don't know. So being able to have open dialogue with your kids and actually know what apps are they downloading, what's on their phone, and being able to have access to it, to see, what they're looking at and things of that nature. Those are really good ways to help prevent a lot of these issues, because, when your child is older and things of that nature, you can't be around them 24/7. But if you're hearing already these type of conversations and these dialogues going on with you, it'll be a little bit easier to catch anything before it flourishes.
Yeah. It's interesting thinking as a parent of teens. So I feel like it's a little bit different than when your kids are real little. I mean, partially because we're preparing them to go out into the world and be independent. So I know, like, we wrestle with putting boundaries, but we can't have everything just bounded.
Right.
Once then they're out on their own, then they will have no boundaries.
Right.
And have to learn how to manage those things themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
so it's a challenge to figure out how to kind of open and yet still protect. It's an ongoing challenge. And go ahead, Cassie.
Oh, I think in that situation, and I don't have teens yet, but I do feel like a teenager myself sometimes. Being a guest at the party is so important with your kids. If they're on TikTok, you should be on TikTok. If they're on Snapchat, you should be on Snapchat. You make it known that you are there, and so that they are aware that they are not free to do as they please, but also so that you're aware of the lingo that's going on and the new things that are trending and the things that are relevant to them. Because if you're not, then so much could just slide under your radar that you've just chalked up to, like, oh, that's just teenager talk or whatever. As mind numbing as it can be, I think that it is important that parents are involved and lurking, I guess you could say. But
no, I totally agree. And
one more thing that I would add to that too is sharing with your kids that it's not stranger danger. Like this whole human trafficking thing, abuse, whatever type, a lot of times the victim knows who their perpetrator is. They know who that is. And so I'm not saying that to scare people like, oh my gosh, I can't trust my kids with anyone. But I think there is a level of having discernment, whether it's your uncle or whether it's the guy next door, so being able to share with your kids, like, even for myself, I would, ask my kids, do you want a hug? You don't want a hug right now? I don't have to give you a hug right now if you don't want one, just being able to share with them, even people close to you. If you're not comfortable, please share that, and so, when it comes to human trafficking stuff, it's the same thing. It's not going to be always this person just running out the woods, kidnapping somebody, and that's how they're trafficked. A lot of times it's over time that they have built a relationship and caught on to some vulnerabilities. And now, a relationship starts to form, because then that's kind of how trauma bonds start. Oh man, I love them so much, so I have to do X, Y, and Z. And that can be in the relationship aspects. But when you're talking about someone who's a drug addict, right now you need an instant high. So it might not take as long for that partnership to grow. But their vulnerability is that they need that high now, or they need to pay that bill now. So just realizing the different formats of how those relationships play out is not always what you think of in the movie of someone just coming out and kidnapping you. So
Yeah. Wow.
I think also, and it's definitely just like, since 2020 and things, our kids are not making relationships in the classroom anymore. They're making them on Zoom. And these are the kids from their community, the kids that they're supposed to be making relationships with. And so then the lines are blurred as far as this person lives, in another country and I'm video chatting with them. Versus this person lives next door and I'm video chatting with them. One is a safe relationship and one is not.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all over the same format, and they're just not, those lines are blurred as far as what is safe and what is not safe, and what's an appropriate way to form a relationship with somebody, when we're just in this age of everything's over the computer, everything's online.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Whew, it can be overwhelming.
Oh yeah.
Are you hoping to have, once you are rolling and maybe even before then, more trainings for just the community, just kind of ongoing trainings?
Oh yeah. So that for me is just as big as a heartbeat for me, community wise, as it is to see the victims of human trafficking healed, if that makes sense. Like, I want there to be just as much of the community's awareness and safety and trauma in general, just for there to be that door open to say, hey, it's okay for you to face that right now. And though you may not have been trafficked, maybe some of our teachings and different things can be helpful in someone aspect in that regard.
Yeah, sure.
Because I feel that there's something that shifts when a community within itself becomes more aware and healthier, for when these victims come out. They may be local, they may not be local. One of the things that we're doing is we're taking each situation case by case, and we're going to be building relationships with other safe homes, across the nation and everything like that. But we don't know, what will end up happening once they finish our program. Will they want to stay local, or will they want to go somewhere, go back to another area where they came from, whatever it is. But say, for instance, if they do want to stay within our community, there should be a lot of safety nets within our community, and learning how to build that and learning how to be that will take training and will take time and all that different stuff. And so we do want to do more community trainings, online and within person. And so that's one of the things that you will see us working on, trying to get more people in the area that are experts in the area to help us as we move forward.
Yeah, I remember sitting at that first civilian first responder training and just thinking, like, I was just so overwhelmed by the amount of information, and just my eyes were just so opened. And I went right home and told my husband everything, and at that time he was doing plumbing and heating. He was in and out of people's houses all the time. He's like, what do I need to look for? What do I need to do? And just wanted that information. And it really just was impressed on my heart. Like, every teacher needs to be here, every daycare provider, every doctor, every lawyer, every grocery bagger. Like, this is information that everybody in a community needs to know. And if everybody knew it, and if everybody knew what to look for, then our kids would be so much safer. Our young adults would be so much safer, because we would have an entire community with open eyes looking out for these things. And it wouldn't be a safe place for traffickers. It would be, we would be able to create a community that was safe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I love that you said that, Cassie. It would not be a safe place for traffickers. And that, if you take anything away from what we're trying to do, Carolyn, and sharing about us, that is what we desire, that it would not be a safe place to traffic, that it would be a place of healing and wholeness, for everybody.
Oh, yeah. I think too, along, and I'm sure you'll address this, along with the training and what to look for, is learning how to take that boldness step to say something.
Yeah.
Because sometimes from my own work with foster kids, I know that sometimes people can be afraid, like, well, this is really a family issue. I don't want to get involved. People are going to think I'm looking over their shoulder or judging them or like whatever. And so there can be some issues with that component of it too.
Mm-hmm. And I do think that, like with that text number that Ashley gave, like that is a great way to be able to be responsible about the situation you see without being involved yourself, and letting people trained to take care of the situation do it, and trusting that they will take you seriously and that they will investigate, because as Ashley said, like they do. And it's a great resource.
That's a great thing. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and with that, you're anonymous with that.
Yeah.
You can share that you want to be anonymous, with the tips and different things like that. And our hope, as we grow and get bigger, is that, at some point we may have our own hotline here with people that can, be on the grounds here and doing that. And until then, that is still a really good, safe, and good resource concerning texting that number or calling that number. And it's so easy for the lines to be blurred, and with having certain protocols in place and establishing a task force here and things of that nature, that will help us in clarifying the lines to be able to share, this is not a sexual abuse issue, this is a human trafficking issue and things of that nature. And still, with learning and growing and all of the things that we have to do as a community, when you don't know, but you just feel that something is off and you feel like you're supposed to report, this number would still be great, because honestly, we still need to inform, like Cassie was naming all the people. How much does our law enforcement know, and different things like that concerning human trafficking issues? And so with Rewritten, we don't only have the task of trying to create a safe home, but we had the task of trying to create this whole new protocol for our area that really isn't in place. And so behind the scenes, those are the things that's being researched and looked on, and where are the right connections and how do we move forward in this, and even for us getting trained to do these things. And so although it may feel overwhelming, we just have to take one step at a time, because to do nothing, as far as for me, I cannot not do anything.
Yeah, it's really a community mindset, like cultural shift.
Yes.
To awareness. And wow. So just moving to just kind of talking about the organization itself.
Yes.
Do you have, are there more people on the board than just the two of you, or is it just you?
Yes. So
and you don't have to name names, you can just give numbers or whatever is appropriate.
Yeah. After I share this, I'll let Cassie share her position within Rewritten. What I love about our organization is that there is room and flexibility to grow and to move where you're supposed to be. As I feel like there has been a shift throughout our time of starting to now of the people who have started with us and where they have shifted. And so we have people on our board, our main board. We have about 4 people on that. And then we have an accountability board. And then we have the partnerships that I shared with the mentoring partnerships that I shared about before.
Ashley, do you want to explain our accountability board? Because that's probably not something everyone is aware of that we have, or why we would have that.
Yeah. So, we have our regular board that we meet with monthly and all of that. And then we have the accountability board that, in case of an issue where for some reason there couldn't be mediation with me and the board or anything like that, then we have the accountability board. They also aid as wisdom and insight for me as the founder of the organization. So, I take pride in having accountability. Although this is the vision that the Lord has given me, I believe that, having the right accountability and the right mentorship helps to propel things forward. So thank you, Cassie. That's why we also have an accountability board. So we have 3 members on there, and then we are newly getting ready to shift soon into having like a office manager per se, someone who can help with admin stuff. We have someone who's over rewritten merchandise, and when people purchase merchandise from the link that we have, that helps with giving donations to the organization, as everything that I shared, the safe home, the land, all of that's going to cost a lot of money. So, but hey, we're gonna keep moving. So that's one way that we are able to get donations. Let's see. I think those are the main layers. We have accountability over our finances until we become a 501c3 through the partnership here in town. And Cassie, do you want to share more?
Well, I'm just going to expand on that real quick, just so, when we're not a 501c3 yet. So,
right.
But we still have a partnership with a local nonprofit in Wellsboro, so that we can still accept donations and that we're held accountable for what we do with that money. So if anybody wants to donate to us and they wonder, well, why would I donate? They're not a nonprofit yet, but we do have that accountability, that we're not just taking money without any kind of oversight on that.
Right.
Good.
And I'm sorry, Carolyn, what else did you?
What's your role, Cassie?
I help Ashley do speaking engagements. I don't mind getting up and talking and sharing our heart about Rewritten. I guess I've been
great at it.
pretty much with Ashley. Pretty much with Ashley since the beginning in that respect, so that if there is a question, I usually know the answer, or I'm pretty good about asking Ashley. But aside from that, my own personal history, work history, I was in a different kind of group home for several years, but I do have the working knowledge of how a group home is run and can be run, the different needs as far as what the state requires for having such a thing, and for just the running of day-to-day life beyond like this big picture. I'm not a big picture person. That is Ashley's job, but I can like detail something to death, and I can, and that's kind of my forte on that. And sometimes I think, too much, but that's just like,
eat each
let's
other.
table that, right? But yeah, so just the, as we look for land to purchase a safe home and build, and that's kind of where I started in the beginning. My husband and I just know we have so many connections in the community, and in a small town, it's so important to know who's safe and who can be trusted. And we're bringing this very special thing here, and we need to protect it as much as we possibly can. And that includes like who does our electric work, and who does, all of these things, because this isn't just building a house. This is building a safe house. This is a home that is so vulnerable to so many different aspects of what we're combating, and making sure that all of the pieces to that puzzle fit is really important. And it's just all stuff that I think that's where Ashley and I really complement each other. She has this big, city mentality as far as like, this is how this works. And I'm like, well, this is a small town and this is how this works, and just that there's just such a difference. And she has really opened my eyes to so many things that I would have never thought about, because I mean, golly, I don't even lock my door most of the time, that's just how my mind works. And I giggle at her for locking her car in my driveway, but there's just been so much that we have just talked about and discussed of how this practically will look and work, and just we want it to be done right, and we want it to be done the very best that we can do it, and we want to make sure that there aren't details that get missed, or because these are people's lives. If we fail, it's not just like our reputation or some money lost. Like, these are people's lives. This is their mental health. This is the rest of their lives. And so we can't afford to have anything done wrong, or that nothing that's not to the best of our ability.
Sure. Yeah. Wow. Can you just briefly talk about the meaning behind the name Rewritten?
Yes, so it comes from I have to pull this up because
Sure.
Psalm 18, the Message version, 20 through 24. At the end, this part really stuck out to me. And when it said, God rewrote the text of my life when I opened the book of my heart to his eyes. And so it goes back to what we shared as far as like these victims and what's been in their heart. This lifestyle was not what they wanted. And just like some of the parents have been born into it, some of the victims also have been born into unfortunate situations where that's just what they're supposed to do. And I remember talking to one of them where it was almost like, why should I expect any other life? This is what I have been trained to do. And so why should I want anything different? And so that's the other thing that people may not realize with survivors and healing and different things like that. Even when I used to be over a executive director over another safe home, it takes time for them to heal. When you've been brainwashed and looked at as an object to just perform or be, you have to now relearn yourself. You have to know who were you before all this trauma, who God designed you to be. And sometimes that comes with a fight. Sometimes they're not all open arms, like, yes, thank you for coming to help me. Sometimes it's not always that easy. And so with us, we wanted to just let them know that their story can be rewritten. It doesn't have to remain what someone else did to them. And other translations say different things, but that whole chapter is about God being, like a fortress and things of that nature. And so, we won't shove, the Bible or anything down their throats or anything like that. But just in our day-to-day living, we want to be what Christ would want us to be, and to love them and to care for them where they're at, and to know that their story can be rewritten. And so that's how we came up with the name.
Beautiful. That's really a powerful verse.
Thank you.
I know I've come to a greater understanding of trauma, like I said, through my work with foster kids and through our adoptions. Yes. And that put me on a path. My background is in education. And so it has put me on a path of learning how to educate people who have gone through trauma. And I'm actually in the process of getting my doctorate right now, and my whole dissertation is on social and emotional learning, and how important that is, and how, even in the public school system, we need to infuse more of that into the daily classroom practices and all of that sort of stuff. So I've read a lot about trauma and just coming at it from a different angle, but I know how important it is and how pervasive it is into just every part of life, and how it can just change people's brain chemistry. And it can even and to come out of that then is like, I mean, I can imagine people listening to you saying, well, someone being rescued from trafficking may not just be like, oh, thank you so much for coming. And people thinking, well, why wouldn't they be thankful? And just kind of understanding how trauma affects people, mind, body, soul, everything, and their identity. And so many things are wrapped up in that those of us who haven't experienced anything like that can't understand. And it's just a perspective that we're like, well, of course, if you're in a terrible situation, you try to get out of it, but they may not even recognize that it's terrible because it's all they've known.
Yeah.
And you bring up
feel safe or comfortable in that awful situation that you can't understand how or why.
Right.
Yeah, and what you said is another thing, like self-identification. There's some that don't self-identify as human trafficking victim, survivor. They don't realize it yet until something is put in their face. Like, are you dealing with all of that? That is actually human trafficking. Like, you're, and that I think was one of the other things that really blew my mind, that some don't even know that they are trafficked until, another, maybe law enforcement has come and helped them, or something else has come about in helping them to see that. And many of the survivors, I haven't come in contact with a ton, but those that I have are like so resilient. I don't even know how many of them just like, a lot of them, of course, deal with a lot of PTSD. I was on another training the other day, and they were just talking about, a lot of the other survivors were sharing about PTSD and all that type of stuff. But to still be able to go on and then become something with your life, that takes a lot of resilience after you've gone through that type of trauma. And so there's something to be said to them when they do come into these type of facilities and different things like that, that we also embrace the fact that though they're coming in as victors, they're victims, they're leaving as survivors. They are strong, and being able to empower them in knowing that, they are very important, and, just being able to shed new light into their identity, and that they're still functioning is amazing.
Sure. And I would think too, a huge important part of breaking this cycle, because if they don't even realize that what's happened to them is something that shouldn't be happening to them, then what's to stop them from perpetuating that with other people or their own children, or, all of that kind of stuff. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I am so grateful to you both to come on today. And I know we both, with the snow and everything, had a little bit of this morning with our kiddos and everything. But I'm so grateful that we were able to make it work. And just as we end here, what's the number one message that you would want to send to anyone who's listening right now?
I think for me, it's don't be afraid to like talk to your kids about these things and other people. Like, these, human trafficking and sex trafficking should not be like taboo subjects and dirty words. Like, we need to use them, and we need to talk about it, and we need to be familiar with it. It can't just be something like we whisper about. It needs to be brought up, and it needs to be brought up often. It's really the most important thing that just any mom, any dad from home can do to tackle this worldwide problem.
Yeah. What about you, Ashley?
I would say that I know that issues like this can become overwhelming, and that can cause either you to put more blinders on where you don't want to deal with it at all, or get overwhelmed where you're trying to do everything. And so first, I would ask everyone, after watching this, take a minute, pause, breathe. It is something that I have to do often, in knowing that, as fast as I want to go so everybody can come and get saved, if I don't take the necessary steps to build a strong foundation, those that were supposed to be there won't be able to be there because I'm trying to move too fast. So pray about what your role is to be in the whole human trafficking awareness issue. It may be the first steps, like Cassie said, talking to your kids, researching things. There are great resources out there to educate yourself. Our Facebook page, we try to put different articles on there that you can look up and be aware of what's going on around you, along with, we have had things on there as far as how to talk to your kids, best online practices and different things like that. So that may be your first step, and then pray about whatever else you're supposed to do. But I would just say to keep those in prayer that are still trying to get out of this lifestyle, and those that are trying to build safe spaces for it, because both are tough positions to be in. But I feel that the more people that know about it, the more then things are reported, then the more rescues happen, and the more we will need a lot more safe communities. So how can you, in your way, be part of being a safety net within your community?
That's great. I think with just speaking to the overwhelming feeling, I know, again, when we were doing foster care, and there were times when we had to say no to a child, a call that we got about a child. And I would really wrestle with some guilt about that. And I kind of went through a couple step process. And one of those things, the first step was, I can't save everybody.
Right.
And then my second step was, I can't save anybody. Jesus is their savior, and he uses people, but bearing the weight of, I have to do everything, is not helpful and not possible. And so I think, even in this interim time where we're, you're still trying to get all your paperwork in and all of that sort of stuff, I can imagine it feeling like, frustrating, but I think for all of us, you who are directly involved, those of us who aren't as directly involved, I think, as you just said, Ashley, like keeping it in prayer and asking the Lord about, how can we be involved? What level of involvement is appropriate for us? And if someone is interested in getting involved, is the Facebook page the best way to kind of get in contact?
Yeah, as of now, until we get a website up, the Facebook page is the best way. We have an Instagram, but where we post the most right now is through Facebook. And so maybe in the fall and things that as we move out of this COVID season, we're going to try to have more interest meetings again to be able to share in person and things of that nature. But yeah, stay connected to our Facebook page for sure. And that I'll have to give you the link, but I think we have it up there as like Rewritten USA. But
so so if I'm searching for it on Facebook, if I go to Rewritten USA, that's what I'm looking for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you put that in, that should bring us up.
Okay, that's wonderful. Well, we'll have to have you back as things progress. So keep me informed. You know how to contact me. Yes. And we would love to have you back on an ongoing basis to kind of just, keep this fresh in people's minds and update on the progress of your organization. So
thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you both so much for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yes.